Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to lesson 2C in level 2 of our Simple Guide to Tajweed series, brought to you by Blossoms of Faith. This is the first of 2 lessons explaining Idgham. In today's lesson, we will learn about the second rule of Meem Saakinah and Tanween rules, which is Idgham, and how we should pronounce it. In this lesson, we will explain how Idgham is pronounced, depending on the presence or absence of Ghunnah. Next lesson, insha'Allah, we will explain Idgham in terms of completeness and incompleteness. Idgham. Linguistically, Idgham means insertion or merging. When applied, it is merging or inserting a second letter into a mutaharrik letter until they become one mushaddad letter similar to the second one. This definition is a general definition for Idgham, as there are many types of Idgham in the Quran other than in Meem Saakinah and Tanween rules. We will discuss the other types of Idgham later in level 5 insha'Allah. Letters that cause Meem Saakinah and Meem Saakinah of Tanween to be merged are Ya, Ra, Meem, Laam, Waw, and Noon, gathered in the word Yarmulun. The sign of Idgham in the Quran is the absence of the sukoon sign on the Noon, and the Tanween shape is sliding or unequal fathas, kasras, or dhammas, followed by one of the letters of Yarmulun. When applying the general definition of Idgham, in the case of Meem Saakinah and Tanween rules, the Meem Saakinah or Meem Saakinah of Tanween is merged into the following letter, which will always be one of the letters of Yarmulun, and it will always be mutaharrik. When Meem Saakinah is followed by one of the letters of Yarmulun, we pronounce it with Idgham, because the point of articulation of the Meem Saakinah and the Meem Saakinah of Tanween is very close to the point of articulation of the letters of Yarmulun. Idgham can only appear between 2 words. If the Meem Saakinah is followed by any of Yarmulun letters in the same word, we should not pronounce it with Idgham. When we talk about Idgham depending on the presence or absence of Ghunnah, we have 2 types. Idgham is pronounced with Ghunnah if Meem Saakinah or Tanween is followed by Ya, Noon, Meem, or Waw, gathered in the word Yanmu. Or it could be without Ghunnah if followed by Ra or Lam. In the case of Idgham with Ghunnah, since Noon is composed of 2 parts, the tongue part and the nasal part, when Meem Saakinah or Meem Saakinah of Tanween is merged into one of the letters of Yanmu, the tongue part merges into the following letter, but we still hear Ghunnah. So the tongue will no longer go to the point of articulation of the Noon when it is merged. As we learned in level 1, lessons 8a and 8c, when we split Tanween in this example, we have Ta marbuta and Meem Saakinah of Tanween. When Meem Saakinah is followed by Waw, which is one of the letters of Yarmulun, the Meem Saakinah merges into the Waw. So, we pronounce the letter that has Tanween, which is Ta marbuta with its haraka, which is Dhamma in this example, as number 1. Then, we pronounce a Waw with Ghunnah, which is number 2, as Waw is one of the letters of Yanmu. Then, we pronounce the following letter from Yanmu from its proper point of articulation without Ghunnah, which is Waw with Fatha in this example, number 3. Notice that the tongue doesn't go to the point of articulation of the Noon, so we don't pronounce the Noon clearly. Instead, it goes directly from number 1 to number 3, and in between, we can hear a Noon merged into the following letter. In the second example, Meem Saakinah is followed by Ya, which is one of the letters of Yarmulun. The Noon Sakinah merges into the Ya. So, we pronounce the letter before the Noon Sakinah with its haraka, Meem Saakinah with fatha, in this example as number 1. Then, we pronounce a Ya with Ghunnah, which is number 2, as Ya is one of the letters of Yanmu. Then, we pronounce the following letter from Yanmu from its proper point of articulation without Ghunnah, which is Ya with fatha in this example, number 3. So, the tongue doesn't go to the point of articulation of the Noon. Instead, it goes directly from number 1 to number 3, and in between we can hear a Noon merged into the following letter. Now, listen to Sheikh Ahmed reading these examples. Notice that we don't hear a clear Noon in number 2, only a Ghunnah sound mixed or merged into the following letter from Yanmu.
مغفرة وأجر مغفرة وأجر أفمن يمشي أفمن يمشي.
On the other hand, in the case of Idgham without Ghunnah, since Noon is composed of the two parts, tongue part and nasal part, when Noon Sakinah or Noon Sakinah of Tanween merges into one of the letters, Laam or Ra, the tongue part and the nasal part both merge into the following letter. So we can't hear the Noon or the Ghunnah anymore, as the Noon has completely merged and changed into the following letter. When we split Tanween in this example, we have Ta marbuta and Noon Sakinah of Tanween. When Noon Sakinah is followed by Ra, which is one of the letters of Yarmulun, the Noon Sakinah merges into the Ra. So, we pronounce the letter that has Tanween, which is Ta marbuta, with its haraka, kasra in this example, as number 1. Then, we pronounce a Ra without Ghunnah, which is number 2, as Noon has completely merged into the Ra. Then, we pronounce the following letter, which is Ra, from its proper point of articulation, without Ghunnah, which is Ra with fatha in this example, number 3. Together, the Noon that has merged into the Ra and the Ra in the following word are pronounced as Ra mushaddada. Notice that the tongue doesn't go to the point of articulation of the Noon at all. Instead, it goes directly from number 1 to number 3, pronouncing number 2 and number 3 together as a mushaddad letter. In the second example, Noon Sakinah is followed by Laam, which is one of the letters of Yarmulun. The Noon Sakinah merges into the Laam. So, we pronounce the letter before the Noon Sakinah with its haraka, Meem Saakinah with kasra in this example as number 1. Then we pronounce a Laam without Ghunnah, which is number 2. Then we pronounce the following letter, Laam, from its proper point of articulation without Ghunnah, which is Laam with fatha in this example, number 3. Together, the Noon that has merged into the Laam and the Laam in the following word are pronounced as Laam mushaddada. So, the tongue doesn't go to the point of articulation of the Noon. It instead goes directly from number 1 to number 3, pronouncing number 2 and 3 together as a mushaddad letter. Now, listen to Sheikh Ahmed reading these examples, and notice that we don't hear Ghunnah, as both parts of the Noon have completely merged into the following letter.
عيشة راضية عيشة راضية من لدن.
Now let's listen to some more examples of Idgham for Noon Sakinah with Ghunnah and without Ghunnah with each letter from Yarmulun. First, let's start with examples of Noon Sakinah merged with Ghunnah into the letters of Yanmu. And then we will listen to examples of Noon Sakinah merged without Ghunnah into the letters of Laam and Ra.
لمن يخشى لمن يخشى من نعمة من نعمة من ماء مهين من ماء مهين من وراء من وراء من لدن عن ربهم.
Now let's listen to examples of Noon Saakinah of Tanween merged with Ghunnah into the letters of Yanmu. Then we will listen to examples of Noon Saakinah of Tanween merged without Ghunnah into the letters of Laam and Ra.
وجوه يومئذ وجوه يومئذ ناعمة يومئذ ناعمة راضية مرضية راضية مرضية وعنبا وقضبا وعنبا وقضبا خير لك شيطان الرجيم.
Here are some pronunciation tips. When we read Idgham with Ghunnah, we don't pronounce all the sound from the mouth. It should be distributed half from the mouth and the other half, which is the Ghunnah, from the nasal passage. Listen to how Sheikh Ahmed presents some of the common mistakes people make when pronouncing Idgham. The first common mistake is pronouncing Idgham with Ghunnah while all the sound is pronounced from the mouth.
لمن يخشى
Or all the sound is pronounced from the nose.
لمن يخشى.
Now listen to the correct pronunciation of this example.
لمن يخشى.
When pronouncing Idgham without Ghunnah, we should not hear Noon at all. Listen to Sheikh Ahmed presenting this mistake and how we should read it correctly.
عن ربهم عن ربهم عن ربهم عن ربهم.
Next lesson, insha'Allah, we will continue to learn about Idgham from the point of view of completeness and incompleteness. Thank you for listening, and see you next lesson where we will continue to learn about Idgham. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.